The coal's more than half stone. And at the price... Hello. Is anything the matter?
I hear the police are on the way here. Why?
Oh, that. Don't worry. They won't be able to get through. Why, the drifts must be 5 feet deep. Nothing will be able to get through today. Excuse me, Mr. Crevici. May I put these down?
Are you Mr. Ralston?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Detective Sergeant Trotter, Berkshire Police. Can I get these skis off and stow them somewhere?
Yes. Go around that way to the front. I'll meet you.
Thank you, sir.
A woman, Detective Sergeant?
I suppose that's what we pay our police force for nowadays. To go around enjoying themselves at winter sports.
Why did you send for the police, Mrs. Ralston?
But I didn't.
It's that woman. She passed the drawing room window on skis all over stone, looking terribly hardy.
You may believe it or not, but that woman is a policeman skiing.
This is Detective Sergeant Trotter.
Good afternoon.
You can't be a sergeant. You're too young.
I'm not quite as young as I look, madam.
But terribly hardy.
We'll store his keys behind the stairs.
Excuse me, Mrs. Ralston, but may I use your telephone?
Of course, Major Martell.
She's very attractive, don't you think? I always think policemen are very attractive.
No brains. No brains. You can see that at a glance.
Hello? Hello? Mrs. Ralston's phone is dead. Quite dead.
It was all right about half an hour ago.
The lines got out of the way to the snow, I should say.
So we're quite good off now. Quite good off. That's funny, isn't it?
I don't see anything to laugh at.
No, indeed.
It's a private joke of my own.
Now we can get down to business, Mr. Ralston. Mrs. Ralston.
Would you like to see us along? If so, we could go on to the library.
That's not necessary, sir. It'll save time if everybody's present.
Oh, do hurry up and tell us. What have we done?
Done? Oh, it's nothing of that kind. It's something rather different. It's more of a matter of police protection, if you understand me.
Police protection?
It relates to the death of Mrs. Maureen Lyon of 24 Culver Street, who was found murdered yesterday, the 15th instant. You may have heard or read about the case.
Yes, I heard about it on the radio. The woman was strangled.
Yes, the first thing I'd like to know is if any of you were acquainted with this Mrs. Lyon.
No, I've never heard of her.
You may have known her by Lyon. It wasn't her real name. She had a police record, and her fingerprints were on file, so we were able to identify her as a Mrs. Maureen Stanning. Her husband was John Stanning, a farmer, who resided at the Long Ridge Farm, not very far from here.
The Long Ridge Farm. Is it where those children...
Yes, the Long Ridge Farm case.
4 children.
Yes, the Corrigans. 2 boys and 2 girls. Brought before the court as in need of care and protection, a home was found for them with the Stannings at the Long Ridge Farm. One of the children subsequently died of criminal neglect and persistent ill treatment. The case made a bit of a sensation at the time.
It was horrible.
The Stannings were sentenced to terms of imprisonment. Mr. Stanning died while in prison. Mrs. Stanning served her sentence and was duly released. Yesterday, as I mentioned, she was found strangled at 24 Culver Street.
Who did it?
I'm coming to that, madam. A notebook was picked up at the scene of the crime. In the notebook was written 2 addresses. The first was 24 Culver Street, and the second was Monksville Manor.
What?
That's why Superintendent Hogman, on receiving this information from Scotland Yard, thought it imperative that I come here and find out of any connection between this house and the Long Ridge Farm.
No, there's no connection. No connection at all. It must be a coincidence.
Superintendent Hogman doesn't think it's a coincidence, sir. He would have come here himself if it were at all possible. Under the weather conditions, and as I can ski, he sent me to get full particulars of everybody in the household, report back to him by phone, and to take whatever measures I thought fit to ensure the safety of this household.
Safety? But what kind of danger does he think we're in? Good Lord, he's not suggesting that someone's going to be killed here.
I don't want to frighten anybody, but frankly, yes, that is the idea.
But why?
That's what I'm here to find out.
But this whole thing, it's just so crazy.
It's because it's crazy that it's dangerous.
Nonsense. I must say, it seems a bit far-fetched.
I think it's wonderful.
There's something that you haven't told us, Sergeant.
Yes, underneath the addresses was written 3 blind mice. On the dead woman's body, there was a piece of paper with "This is the first" written on it. Underneath the words, there was a drawing of 3 little mice and a bar of music. The music was to the tune of the nursery rhyme, 3 Blind Mice. You all know how it goes. 3 blind mice.
3 blind mice, see how they run. They all ran after the farmer's wife, who cut off their tail with a carving knife. Oh, that's horrible!
Sergeant, you say that there are 4 children at the Long Ridge Farm, and one of them died.
Yes, the youngest, a boy of 11.
What happened to the other 3?
The younger girl was adopted by somebody we haven't been able to trace her present whereabouts. The older girl would be in her 20s, definitely schizophrenic, according to many psychiatrists. The older boy would be about 25, deserted from the army, and hasn't been heard of since. Also very odd in the head.
And they think that it was he who killed Mrs. Blind,
Yes,
Stanley, and that he's a homicidal maniac, and that he will turn up here and try to kill someone? But why?
that's what I've got to find out from you. As the superintendent sees it, there must be some connection. Now, you state, sir, that you yourself have never had any connection with the Long Ridge Farm.
No.
And what about you, madam?
No connection.
What about servants?
We haven't any, which reminds me. Would you mind, Sergeant, if I went out to the kitchen? I'll be there if you need me.
That's quite all right, madam. Now, can I have all your names, please?
This is quite ridiculous. We're really staying in a kind of hotel. We've only been here a day. We've nothing to do with this place.
But you've all planned to come here in advance. You've booked your rooms here ahead of time.
Well, yes. All except Mr.
Paramachine. My car returned the sergeant.
I see. What I'm getting at is that anyone who may have been following you might know very well that you were coming here. Now, there's one thing I want to know, and I want to know it quick. Which one of you is it that has some connection with this business at the Long Ridge Farm? You're not being very sensible, you know. One of you is in danger, deadly danger, and I've got to know which one that is. All right, I'll ask you one by one then, starting with you, since you seem to arrive here more or less by accident, Mr. Perry.
Bear up, Gene. Sergeant, I tell you, I know nothing of this place. I am a stranger in this country, and I know nothing of these local affairs of bygone years.
Mrs.
Boyle. I don't see. Really, I consider it an impertinence. Why on earth should I have anything to do with such distressing business?
Miss.
Casewell. Leslie Casewell. I never heard of Long Ridge Farm, and I know nothing about it.
And you, sir?
Met Dad. Major. Heard about the case in the papers at the time. I was stationed in Edinburgh then. No personal knowledge.
And you?
Christopher Wren. I was a mere child at the time. I don't even remember hearing about it.
And is that all you have to say? Any of you? Well, if one of you gets murdered, you'll have yourselves to blame. Now, can I have a look around the house, Mr. Ralston?
Dears, how melodramatic. She's very attractive, though. I did why the police so stern and hard-boiled. By the throat of this business, 3 blind mice. How does the tune go?
Really, Mr. Wren?
Don't you like it? But it's a signature tune, the signature of a murderer. Just fancy what a kick you must be getting out of all this.
Melodramatic rubbish. I don't believe a word of it.
But just wait, Mrs. Boyle, until I creep up behind you and you feel my hands in your throat.
Oh, stop!
That'll do, Griffin Bird. It's a poor joke anyway. In fact, it's not a joke at all.
But it is. That's just what it is. It's a madman's joke. That's just what makes it so deliciously macabre. If you can just see your faces.
A singularly ill-mannered and neurotic young man.
Your child, taking out a policeman on a conducted tour of the house.
Your friend the architect has been behaving in the most abnormal manner.
The young fellow seems nervy nowadays. Dare say no grow of it.
Nerves? I haven't any patience with people who say they have nerves. I haven't any nerves.
Well, perhaps that's just as well for you, Mrs. Boyle.
What do you mean?
I believe you were the magistrates on the bench at the time. You were responsible for sending those 3 children to the Logridge farm.
Really, Major Metcalf, I can hardly be held responsible. We had reports from welfare workers. The farm people seemed very nice and were most anxious to have the children. It seemed most satisfactory. Eggs and fresh milk and a healthy out-of-doors life.
Kicks, blows, starvation, and a thoroughly vicious couple.
But how was I to know? They were very civilly spoken.
Yes, I was right.
Was you? One tries to do a public duty and all one gets is abuse.
Forgive me. I find this all to be very amusing. Public duty.
I never did like that man.
Where did he come from last night?
I don't know.
Looks a bit of a spit to me. Makes his face up, too. Rouge and powder. Disgusting. He must be quite old.
And yet he skips about as though he were quite young.
You'll be needing more firewood. I'll get it.
It's almost dark, and yet it's only 4 o'clock. I'll go turn the lights on. There. That's better.
Now, where did I leave my pen?
What a horrible tune that is.
Don't you like it? Reminds you of your childhood, perhaps. An unhappy childhood.
I was very happy as a child.
You were lucky.
Weren't you happy?
No.
I'm sorry.
That's all a long time ago. One gets over things.
I suppose so.
Or doesn't one? Damned hard to say.
They say that what happens to you when you are a child matters more than anything else.
They say. Who says?
Psychologists.
All humbug. I've been used to psychiatrists and psychologists.
I've never really had much to do with them.
Good thing for you, you haven't. It's all a lot of hooey, the whole thing. Life's what you make of it. Look straight ahead. Don't look back.
But one can't always help looking back.
Nonsense. It's a question of willpower.
Perhaps.
I know.
I expect you're right. It's just sometimes things happen to make you remember.
Don't give in. Turn your back on them.
Is that really the right way? I wonder. Perhaps that's all wrong. Perhaps one really ought to face things.
Depends what you're talking about.
Sometimes I hardly know what I'm talking about.
Well, nothing from the past is going to affect me, except in the way I want it to.
What's in here, a drawing room?
Would you mind shutting that door? This place is full of drafts.
Sorry, ma'am, but I've got to give a lay of the land. Well, that completes the tour. Nothing suspicious. I think I'll make my report to Superintendent Hogman now.
But you can't telephone. The line's dead.
What? Since when?
Major Metcalf tried it just after you arrived.
But it was all right earlier. Superintendent Hogman got through all right.
Oh, yes. I suppose since then the lines are down with the snow.
I wonder. It may have been cut.
Cut? But who could have cut it?
Just how much do you know about these people that are staying in your guest house, Mr. Ralston?
We really don't know anything about them.
Aha.
Mrs. Boyle wrote from a hotel in Bournemouth. Major Metcalf from a place in, where was it?
Leamington.
Wren wrote from a hotel in Hampstead. And Miss Casefall from a private hotel in Kensington. Mr. Paravicini, as we already told you, arrived out of the blue just last night.
I shall go into all of that, of course. But there's not much reliance to be placed on that sort of evidence.
But even if this maniac were trying to get here and kill us all, or one of us, we're perfectly safe now because of the snow. No one can get here until it melts.
Unless he's here already.
Here already?
Well, why not, Mr. Ralston? All of these people arrived here yesterday evening, some hours after the death of Mrs. Stanley. Plenty of time to get here.
Yes, but everybody except for Mr. Paravicini booked their places well in advance.
But why not? These crimes were planned.
Crimes? But there's only been one crime, in Culver Street. Why do you suggest that there's going to be another one here?
That it will happen here, no. I hope to prevent that. That will be attempted, yes.
I just can't believe this. This is just all so fantastic.
It isn't fantastic. It's just facts.
Sergeant Trotter, you have a description of what this man looks like in London?
Indeterminate build, medium height, darkish overcoat, soft felt hat, face hidden by a muffler. There are 3 darkish overcoats in the hall, Mr. Ralston. One of them is yours. And 3 soft felt hats.
Still can't believe it.
It's this telephone wire that worries me. If it's been cut,
I must go see to the vegetables.
is there an extension?
I beg your pardon? Did you say something?
Yes, Mr. Ralston. I said, is there an extension?
Oh, yes. Upstairs in our bedroom.
Go up there and try it for me, will you? downstairs or into the dining room?
I think. I'm not sure. I heard a door creak and then shut just as I came out of the kitchen.
Which door?
I don't know.
Think, Mrs. Ralston. Upstairs? Downstairs? Close at hand? Right? Left?
I don't know, I tell you. I'm not even sure if I heard anything at all.
Can't you stop bothering her? Can't you see that she's tired?
We're investigating a murder, Mr. Ralston. Up until now, none of you have taken this thing seriously. Mrs. Boyle didn't. She held out on me with information. You all held out on me with information. And unless we get to the bottom of this, and quickly, there may be another death.
Another death? But why?
Because there were 3 little blind mice.
A death for each. But there would have to be a connection. I mean another connection with the Longer's farm business.
Yes, there would have to be that.
But why another death here?
Because there were only 2 addresses in the notebook we found. At 24 Culver Street, there was only 1 possible victim. Here at Maxwell Manor, there's a much wider field.
Nonsense. Surely it'd be a most unlikely coincidence that there'd be 2 people brought here by chance, both with the share in the Longridge Farm case.
Considering the circumstances, it wouldn't be that much of a coincidence. Think it out, Miss Casewell. Now I want to get down quite clearly where you all were at the time Mrs. Boyle was killed. I've already got Mrs. Ralston's statement. You were in the kitchen preparing the vegetables. You came in here, the radio was blaring, the lights were turned off, and the hall was dark. You turned on the lights, saw Mrs. Boyle, and screamed.
Yes, I screamed and I screamed, and at last people came.
Yes, people came. Lots of people, from many different directions, all arriving more or less at once. Now, when I got out of that window to trace the telephone wire, you, Mr. Ralston, had gone up to the bedroom that you and Mrs. Ralston occupied to check the extension telephone there. Where were you when you heard Mrs. Ralston scream?
I was still upstairs, in our room, checking the extension telephone. It was dead there, too. I looked outside the window to see if there were any signs of the wire being cut, but I couldn't find any. After I had checked the window and come back in, I heard Molly scream, and I rushed downstairs.
Those simple actions took you a rather long time, don't you think, Mr. Ralston?
I don't think so.
I should say you definitely took your time over that.
I was thinking about something.
I see. Mr. Wren, I'll have the account of where you were.
I run in the kitchen seeing if there was anything I could do to help Mrs. Ralston. I had door cooking. After that, I went upstairs to my bedroom.
Why?
It's quite a natural thing to go to one's bedroom, don't you think? And after all, one does want to be alone sometimes.
You went to your bedroom because you wanted to be alone.
And I wanted to tidy up and brush my hair.
You wanted to brush your hair.
Anyway, that's where I was.
And you heard Mrs. Ralston scream.
Yes.
And you came down.
Yes.
Curious that you and Mr. Ralston didn't meet up on the stairs.
I came down by the back stairs, then near to my room.
Did you go up by the back stairs too? Or did you come through here?
I came by the back stairs too.
Mr. Parravicini,
I told you, I was playing the piano to the drawing room. Inspector.
I'm not an inspector, just a sergeant. Did anybody hear you play the piano?
No, I should not expect so. I was playing very softly with one finger. Okay, so.
You were playing 3 blind mice.
Is that so?
Yes. It is a haunting little tune. Don't you agree?
I think it's horrible.
You control the people's head. Someone was whistling it too.
Whistling it? Where?
I'm not sure. Perhaps in the front hall or in the dining room. Or maybe in upstairs bedroom.
Who was whistling 3 blind mice? Are you making this up, Mr. Parravicini?
No. Sergeant, I would not do a thing like that.
So go on, you were playing the piano.
With one finger, so. And then I hear the radio, blaring, someone shouting on it. Defends my ears, and then I hear Mrs. Ralston scream.
Mrs. Ralston in the kitchen, Mr. Ralston upstairs, Mr. Wren upstairs, Mr. Parravicini in the drawing room, Miss Casewell?
I was writing letters in the library.
Could you hear what was going on in here?
No, I didn't hear anything until Mrs. Ralston screamed.
And what did you do then?
I came in here.
At once?
I think so.
You say you were writing letters when you heard Mrs. Ralston scream.
Yes,
And you got up from the writing desk hurriedly and came in here.
yes.
And yet, there doesn't seem to be any unfinished letter on the writing desk in the library.
I brought it with me.
Dearest Jessie, friend of yours or relation?
That's none of your damn business.
Perhaps not. You know, if I were to hear someone scream blue murder while I was writing a letter, I don't think I would take the time to pick up my unfinished letter, fold it, and put it in my handbag before going to see what was the matter.
You wouldn't. How interesting.
Now, Major Metcalf, you say you were in the cellar? Why?
Looking around, just looking around. I looked through the covered place underneath the stairs, in the kitchen, Clyde Jones, and sports stacking. Nice clothes you got.
Glad you like them.
Not at all. Trip up an old monastery, I should say. Probably why this place is called Mousetrap.
We're not engaged in antiquarian research, Major Metcalf. We're investigating a murder. Now, Mrs. Ralston told us that she heard a door shut with a faint creak. That particular door shuts with a faint creak. It could be, you know, that after killing Mrs. Boyle, the murderer heard Mrs. Ralston coming from the kitchen and slipped into the cupboard, pulling the door to after him.
A lot of things could be.
There would be fingerprints on the inside of the cupboard.
Fine, they're all right. But most criminals are careful to wear gloves, aren't they?
Usually, but all criminals slip up sooner or later.
I wonder, Sergeant, if that's really true. Look here, Sergeant. Aren't we wasting our time? There's only one person here who fits the bill.
Mr. Ralston, I'm in charge of this investigation.
Oh, all right, buddy.
Mr. Ralston! Thank you. I've got to establish opportunity as well as motive. And let me tell you this, you all had opportunity.
Sergeant,
There are two staircases. Anyone could go up by one and come down by the other. Anyone could go down to the cellar by the cupboard near the kitchen and come up by the flight of steps that leads to the trap door over there. The vital fact was that every one of you was alone at the time the murder was committed.
Sergeant, you speak as though we're all under suspicion. But that's absurd.
In a murder case, everyone is under suspicion.
But you know pretty well who killed that woman in Culver Street. It was the eldest of the 4 children at the Long Ridge Farm. A mentally abnormal young man who is now 23 years of age. Well, damn it all, there's only one person here who fits that bill.
It's not true. It's not true. You're all against me. Everyone's always been against me. Bring me for murder. It's persecution. That's what it is. Persecution.
Look at that. Steady.
It's all right, Chris. Nobody's against you. Tell him it's all right.
We don't threaten people.
Tell him you're not going to arrest him.
I'm not going to arrest anyone. To do that, I've got to have evidence. I haven't any evidence yet.
Molly, I think you're crazy. And you too. There's only one person here who fits the bill. And as a safety measure, he should be placed under arrest. It's only fair to the rest of us.
Wait, Giles. Wait. Sergeant Trotter, can I speak to you a minute?
Certainly. Will you all go into the dining room, please?
I'm staying.
No, Giles. You too, please.
I'm staying, Molly. I don't know what's come over you.
Please.
What was he wanted to speak to me about, Mrs. Ralston?
Sergeant Trotter, you think that this crazy killer must be the eldest of those 4 children at the farm. But you don't know that, do you?
Actually, we don't know a thing. The only thing we do joined with her husband in mistreating and starving those children has been killed. And the woman magistrate who put them there has been killed. And a telephone wire that links me to police headquarters has been cut.
But you don't even know that. It may have just been the snow.
No, the line was deliberately cut. I found the place outside the front door.
See.
Sit down, Mrs. Ralston.
But all the same, you don't know.
I'm going by probability. It all points one way. Mental instability, childish mentality, desertion from the army, and a psychiatrist's report.
I know. And therefore it all seems to point to Christopher. But I don't believe that it was Christopher. There must be other possibilities.
Such as?
Well, hadn't those children had any relations at all?
The mother was a drunk. She died soon after the children were taken from her.
What about their father?
He was an army sergeant, serving abroad. If he's still alive, he's probably discharged by now.
You don't know where he is now?
We have no information. To track him might take some time. But let me tell you this, Mrs. Ralston. The police take every eventuality into account.
But you don't know where he may be at this minute. And if the son is mentally unstable, the father may have been unstable as well.
It's a possibility.
If he came home, after being a prisoner of war perhaps, and having suffered terribly, if he came home and found his wife dead, and that his children had gone through some terrible experience, he might go off his head a bit and want revenge.
That's only surmise.
But it's possible.
Yes, it's possible.
So the murderer may be middle-aged, or even old. When I said the police had run up, Major Metcalf was frightfully upset. He really was. I saw his face.
Major Metcalf?
Middle-aged, a soldier. He seems quite nice and perfectly normal. But it might not show, might it?
No, often it doesn't show at all.
So it's not just Christopher who's the suspect. There's Major Metcalf as well.
Any other suggestions?
No. Mr. Parravicini did drop the poker when I said the police had run up.
Parravicini?
I know. He seems quite old, foreign and everything. But he might not be as old as he looks. He moves about like a much younger man. He's definitely got makeup on his face. And he might be, oh, I know it sounds very melodramatic, but he might be disguised.
You're very anxious, aren't you, that it shouldn't be young Mr. Wren?
It's just, he seems so helpless somehow, and so unhappy.
Let me tell you this. I've had every possibility in mind ever since the beginning. The father, the boy, and there were others, you know. They were the sisters.
Oh, the sisters?
Yes, the murderer could have been a woman. Man's felt hat pulled down, muffler pulled well up, spoke in a whisper. It's the voice that gives the sex away. Yes, it could have been a woman.
Miss Casewell?
Looks a bit old for the part. There's a very wide field. There's yourself, for instance.
Me?
You're about the right age.
Oh, but certainly you
I've
don't.
no means of checking anything you tell me right now. And then there's your husband.
Child? How ridiculous.
How much do you know about your husband, Mrs. Ralston?
How much do I know about a child? How silly.
You've been married how long?
Just a year.
And you met him where?
At a dance. In London, we went to a party.
Did you meet his people?
He hasn't any people. They're all dead.
They're all dead.
Yes, but... Oh, you make it sound all wrong. His father was a barrister, and his mother died when he was a baby.
But you're only telling me what he told you. You
Yeah.
don't know it of your own knowledge.
It's outrageous
You'd be
that...
surprised how many cases much like yours begin nowadays, Mrs. Ralston. Especially since the war. Homes deserted, families broken up. Fellow says he's in the Air Force, just finished army training. There are no backgrounds nowadays. Girl just marries her man. It's the parents and the relatives who used to make the inquiries before consenting to an engagement. That's all done away with now. Couple just meet and marry. Sometimes it's a year before she finds out that he's an absconding bank clerk, or an army deserter, or something equally undesirable. Just how much do you know about Giles?
How much do I know about Giles? Don't be ridiculous. He's Giles. And it's absolutely absurd to suggest that he's some sort of crazy, homicidal maniac. Why, he wasn't even in London yesterday when the murders took place.
Where was he? Here?
He took the car to a sale to get some chicken wire for our chickens.
Bring it back with him.
No, it turned out to be the wrong kind.
An hour by train, a little longer by car. I tell you, Giles wasn't in London. Just a minute, please. Is this your husband's coat, Mrs. Rustin?
Yes.
Evening magazine. Sold in the streets about 3:30 yesterday evening.
I don't believe it.
Don't you? Don't you?
Molly. Where's she gone?
Oh,
The sergeant.
she went out that way.
There's only some way I could get away from here. Is there any place I could hide in the house?
Hi.
Yes, from her.
Why?
Darling, you're also frightfully against me. You're going to say that I committed these crimes, particularly your husband.
Never mind him. Listen, Christopher, you can't go on running away from things all your life.
Why do you say that?
Well, it's true, isn't it?
It's quite true.
You've got to grow up sometime, Chris.
I wish I hadn't.
Your name's not really Christopher Wren, is it?
No.
You're not really trained to be an architect.
No.
Why did you?
I call myself Christopher Wren. It just amused me, and then they used to make fun of me at school and call me Little Christopher Robin. Robin Wren, the association of ideas, was held me at school.
What's your real name?
We didn't go into that. I ran away while I was in the army. It was also horrible. I hated it. I told you that I was the one the specification fitted. You see, my mother. My mother.
Yes, your mother.
Everything would be all right if she hadn't died. She would look after me, take care of me.
You can't go on being looked after all your life. Things happen to you, and you've got to bear them. You've got to go on just as usual.
I can't do that.
Yes, one can.
You mean you have?
Yes.
What was it? Was it something horrible?
It's something I've never forgotten.
Was it to do with Giles?
No, it was long before I met Giles.
You must have been very young, almost a child.
Perhaps that's why it was so awful. It's horrible, horrible. I can't forget it. I tried to get it out of my mind.
So you're running away too. Running away from things instead of facing them.
Yes, perhaps in a way I am. Considering I never saw you until yesterday, we seem to know each other rather well.
It's odd, isn't it?
I don't know. I suppose there's sort of a sympathy between us.
Anyway, you think I should stick it out?
Well, frankly, what else can you do?
I might pitch to start to ski, 'cause I can ski quite well.
That would be frightfully stupid. It would be almost like admitting you're guilty.
Sergeant probably thinks I'm guilty.
No, she doesn't. At least, I don't know what the sergeant thinks. I hate her, I hate her, I hate her.
Who?
Sergeant Trotter. She puts things into your head. Things that aren't true. That can't possibly be true.
What is all this?
I don't believe it. I won't believe it.
Won't believe what? Come on out of it.
You see that?
Yes?
What is it? Yesterday's evening paper. A London paper. Giles didn't go to London yesterday, but it was in his pocket.
Well, if he was here all day, then...
But he wasn't. He went across country to get some chicken wire, but he couldn't find any.
Well, that's all right. Maybe he did go to London after all.
Why should he tell me he did? Why did he keep racing around the countryside?
Perhaps with the news of this murder.
He didn't know about the murder. Or did he? Did he?
Lord, Molly, surely you don't think... the sergeant doesn't think...
I don't know what the sergeant thinks. And she can make you think things about people. You ask yourself a question, and you begin to doubt. You feel somebody you love and know well might be a stranger. That's what happens in a nightmare. You're somewhere in the middle of friends, and suddenly they're not your friends anymore. They're different people, just pretending. Perhaps you can't trust anybody. Perhaps everybody's a stranger.
kitchen and keep away from my wife.
Now really, look
You
here.
keep away from my wife, Brian. She's not going to be the next victim.
So that's what you think of me?
I've already said so, haven't I? There's a killer loose in this house. It seems to me that you fit the bill.
I'm not the only one to fit the bill.
I don't see who else does.
How blind you are. Or do you just pretend to be blind?
I'm telling you, I'm worrying about my wife's safety.
So am I. I'm not leaving you alone with her.
What the hell?
Please go, Chris.
I'm not going.
Please go, Christopher. Please, I mean it.
I shan't be far away.
Molly, what has come over you? You must be crazy. Perfectly prepared to lock yourself in the kitchen with that homicidal maniac?
He isn't.
You just have to look at him and see that he's crazy.
He isn't. I tell you, Giles, he isn't dangerous. I'd know if he were dangerous. Besides, I can look after myself.
That's what Mrs. Boyle said.
Oh, Giles, don't.
Look here, Molly. What is there between you and that wretched boy?
What do you mean by between us? I feel sorry for him, that's all.
Perhaps you've met him before. Perhaps you suggested that he come up here, and then you pretend like you're meeting for the first time. Got things all cooked up, haven't you?
Giles, have you run out of your mind? How dare you suggest these things?
Rather odd, isn't it, that he come and stay at an out-of-the-way place like this?
No honor than that Miss Casewell, or Major Metcalf, or Mrs. Boyle should.
I read once in the newspaper that these homicidal cases are able to attract young women. Proves as though it's true. How long has this been going on? How long have you known him?
You're being absolutely ridiculous. I never set eyes on Christopher Wren until he arrived here yesterday.
Maybe you've been going up to London to meet him on this lot.
You know perfectly well that I haven't been up to London for weeks.
You haven't been up to London for weeks. Is that so?
What on earth do you mean? It's quite true.
Is it? Then what's this? This is your glove. You dropped it. I picked it up this afternoon while I was talking to Sergeant Trotter. Do you see what's inside of it? A London bus ticket.
Oh, yeah.
So not only did you go to the village yesterday, you went to London as well.
All right.
Well, I was simply racing around the countryside.
While you were racing around the countryside.
Come on now, admit it. You went to London.
All right, I went to London. So did you.
What?
So did you. And you brought back an evening paper.
Where did you get a hold of this?
It was in your overcoat pocket.
Everyone should put it there.
Did they? No. You went to London.
All right, I did go to London, but I didn't go there to meet a woman.
You didn't? Are you sure you didn't?
Huh? What do you mean?
Stay away. Don't come near me.
What's the matter?
Don't touch me.
Did you go to London yesterday to meet Christopher Wren?
Don't be a fool.
Then why did you go?
I shan't tell you that now. Perhaps now I've forgotten why I went.
Molly, what has come over you? I feel as though I don't even know you anymore.
Perhaps you never really did know me. We've been married how long? A year? But you don't know anything about me. What I've done, or thought, or felt, or suffered before you knew me.
Molly, you're crazy.
All right then, I'm crazy. Why not? Perhaps it's fun to be crazy.
What the hell is the...
Now. I hope you two aren't saying a little more than you mean. One is so apt to leave it. Lovers' quarrels.
Lovers quarrel. That's good.
Quite so, quite so. Sure told myself as a younger man. Jeunesse, jeunesse, the poet said. Not been married long, I imagine.
It's no business of yours, Paraccini.
No. No business at all. I just came down to say to the sergeant could I find her skis. And I'm afraid she is very upset.
Christopher.
What did you say?
What's new by any chance you move then, Mr. Alston?
No, of course not.
Mr. Ralston, Mrs. Ralston, have you removed my skis from the cupboard where we put them?
No.
Somebody's taken them.
What made you have to look at them, Sergeant?
The snow is still coming down. I need reinforcements here. I was going to ski over to the police station at Market-Hampton to report on the situation.
And now you can't. Someone certainly seems to have shabby doing that. But you may have been taken for another reason, eh?
Yes? What?
Someone may want to get away.
What did you mean when you said Christopher just now?
Nothing.
So our young architect is fled. Very, very interesting.
Is this true, Mrs. Ralston?
Oh, thank goodness. You haven't gone after all.
Did you take my skis, Mr. Wren?
Your ski sergeant?
No.
Why should I?
Mrs. Ralston seemed pleased.
Mr. Wren is very fond of skiing. I thought he had taken them perhaps just to get a little exercise.
Exercise?
Now this is a very serious matter. Someone has taken my only means of communication with the outside world. I want everybody in here at once.
I think Miss Casewell's gone upstairs.
I'll get her.
I left Major Metcalf in the dining room. Major Metcalf! He's in there now.
I'll try and find him. Were you looking for me?
Yes, it's a question of my skis.
Mr. Ralston!
Did either of you two remove a pair of skis from the cupboard?
Good Lord, no. Why should I?
And I didn't take them?
Nevertheless, they are gone. Which way did you go to your room?
By the back stairs.
Then you passed the cupboard.
If you say so. I have no idea where your skis are.
You were actually in that cupboard today.
Yes, I was.
At the time Mrs. Boyle was killed.
The time Mrs. Boyle was killed, I had gone down to the cellars.
Were my skis there when you passed through?
I haven't the least idea.
Didn't you see them?
Can't remember.
You must remember if those skis were there.
There's no use shouting at me. I wasn't interested in the skis at the time. I was interested in the cellars. The architecture of this place is very interesting, so I can't tell you whether I saw your skis or not.
You do realize that you yourself had an excellent opportunity of taking them.
Yes, I grant you that. If I wanted to, I should say.
The question is, where are they now?
Ought to be able to find them if we all get to it. Not a case of punch thimble. Weapon great things. Skis. If we all get to it, that is.
Not quite so fast, Major Metcalf. That may be, what we are meant to do.
I don't get you.
I'm in the position now where I've got to put myself in the place of a crazy, cunning brain. I've got to ask myself what he wants us to do next, and what he himself is planning on doing next. I've got to try to keep one step ahead of him, because if I don't, there will be another death.
You still don't believe that.
Yes, Miss Casewell, I do. 3 blind mice. 2 of the mice cancel out. 1 left to be deadly. There are 6 of you here. 1 of you is the killer. 1 of you is the killer, and the other is the killer's prospective victim. That is who I'm speaking to right now. Mrs. Boyle held out on him with information. Mrs. Boyle is dead. 1 of you is holding out me with information. Well, don't. Nobody who was killed twice is going to hesitate to kill a 3rd time. And as it is now, I don't know which one of you it is that needs protection. Any one of you who has anything, however slight, to reproach themselves for in that bygone business, better come out with it. All right, you won't. But I'll get the killer. I have no doubt of that. But it may be too late for one of you. I'll tell you another thing. The killer is enjoying himself. Yes, he's enjoying himself a good deal. All right, you can go.
Talking of chicken, dear lady. Ever tried chicken's liver served on toast has been thickly smeared with foie gras with a thin rash of bacon, just touched with a Suzanne fresh mustard? Ah. Come into the kitchen. We'll see what we can concoct together. A charming occupation.
I'm helping my wife, Peravicini.
Your husband is afraid for you. Quite natural in the circumstances. He doesn't fancy being alone with me. It's my sadistic tendencies he fears, not my amorous ones. Alas, what an inconvenience a husband always is. Very Videla.
I'm sure Giles doesn't think that.
He's very wise. Takes no chances. Can I prove to you or to him or to our dog and sergeant that I'm not a homicidal maniac? So very difficult to make me. Or perhaps instead I am.
Oh, don't!
Stop frightening my wife at once, Mr.
She's
Pervicini.
such a gay little tune, don't you think? She can cut off their tails with a carving knife. Snick, snick, snick. Delicious. Just the thing a child would adore.
Oh,
Cruel little things, children.
I said stop frightening my wife.
Some of them never grow up.
I said stop frightening my wife.
it's silly of me. But you see, I found her. Her face was all purple. I can't forget it.
I know. It's difficult to forget things, isn't it? We are forgetting kind.
I must go. The food, dinner, prepare the spinach. The potatoes are going to pieces. Please, Giles.
What did you say to the lady to upset her?
Hey, Sergeant. Oh, just a little innocent fun. I've always been fond of little joke.
There's nice fun, and there's fun that's not so nice.
Now, I do wonder what you mean by that, Sergeant.
I've been doing a little wondering about you too, sir.
Indeed.
Like how your car overturned in a snowdrift. So convenient.
Inconveniently, you mean, don't you, Sergeant?
That rather depends on how you're looking at it. Where were you bound for when you had this accident?
I was on my way to a friend's house.
In this neighborhood?
Not so very far from here.
And what's the name and address of this friend?
Now, with me, Sergeant, does it have anything to do with the impending measures?
We always like the fullest information. Now, what did you say the name of this friend was?
I didn't say.
No, you didn't say. And it seems you're not going to say. That's very interesting.
But, Sergeant, there could be so many reasons. And a more discretion, eh? These jealous husbands.
Rather old to be running around with the ladies at your time of life, Mr. Veracini.
My dear Sergeant, I'm not quite so old as I look.
I've been wondering that too.
What?
That you may not be as old as you try to look. There are many people nowadays running around trying to look younger. When someone goes around trying to look older, well, it does make one ask oneself why.
Having asked so many questions and so many people, you ask questions of yourself as well. Isn't that how we're doing things?
I may get an answer from myself. I don't get many from you.
Well, try again. That is, if you have any more questions.
One or two. Where were you coming from last night?
That is simple. From London.
What address in London?
I always stay at the Ritz Hotel.
Very nice too, I'm sure. What permanent address?
I dislike permanency.
Business or profession?
I play the market.
Stockbroker?
No, you misunderstand me.
Enjoying yourself, aren't you, Mr. Paracini? Sure of yourself, too. I wouldn't be too sure. You're mixed up in a murder case. Don't you forget it. Murder isn't just fun and games, you know.
Not even this murder. My, you are very serious. I've always thought the police as having no sense of humor. Is it Inquisition over for the moment?
For the moment, yes.
Good. If you need me, I shall be searching for your skis in the drawing room, just in case someone has hidden them in the grand piano.
Just a minute, please.
Were you talking to me?
Sit down, Miss Casewell.
What do you want?
You may have heard some of the questions I was asking Mr. Paracini.
I heard them.
I'd like to know information from you.
What do you want to know?
Full name, please.
Leslie Margaret Catherine Casewell.
Catherine.
I spell it with a K.
Quite so. Address?
Via Mariposa, Condor, Mallorca.
That's in Italy.
It's an island, a Spanish island.
English address?
Herb Morgan's Bank, Leadenhall Street.
No other English address?
No,
How long have you been in England?
a week.
And you've been staying since your arrival?
At the Lavray Hotel, Knightsbridge.
What brought you to Muswell Manor, Miss Casewell?
I wanted somewhere quiet, in the country.
And how long did you, or do you, propose to remain here?
Until I finished what I came here to do.
And what was that? And what was that?
I beg your pardon. I was thinking of something else.
You haven't answered my question, Miss Casewell.
I don't really see why I should. You know, it's a matter that concerns me alone.
All the same, Miss Casewell.
No, I don't think we'll argue about it.
Would you mind telling me your age then?
Not in the least. It's on my passport. I'm 24.
24?
You were thinking I look older. That is quite true.
Is there anyone in this country who can vouch for you?
My bank can reassure you as to my financial position. I can refer you to a solicitor, a very discreet man. I'm not in a position to offer you such reference. I've lived most of my life abroad,
In Mallorca?
in Mallorca, and other places.
Were you born there?
No, I left England when I was 13.
You know, Miss Casewell, I can't quite make you out.
Does it matter?
I don't know. What are you doing here?
Seems to worry you.
It does worry me. You say you left England when you were 13,
12, 13, thereabout.
and was your name Casewell then?
It's my name now.
What was your name then? Come on, tell me.
What are you trying to prove?
I want to know what your name was when you left England.
It's a long time ago. I've forgotten.
There are some things one doesn't forget.
Possibly.
Unhappiness, despair.
I dare say.
What was your real name?
I told you. Leslie Margaret Catherine Casewell.
Catherine? Catherine? What the hell are you doing here?
Oh God! Oh God! Oh, I wish to God I'd never come here. Oh, my God! What was I thinking?
I always thought the police weren't allowed to give people a third degree.
I have merely been interrogating Miss Casewell.
You seem to have upset her. What did she do?
No. It's nothing. It's just all this murder. It's so horrible. It came over me suddenly. I'll go to my room.
It's incredible. I can't believe it.
Why can't you believe 6 impossible things before breakfast like the Red Queen?
Oh yes, it's rather like that.
To me, you look as though you'd seen a ghost.
I've seen something I should have seen a long time ago. Blind so bad I've been. But now, I think we may be able to get somewhere.
The police have a clue.
Yes, the police do have a clue. I want everyone in here at once. Do you know where they are?
Giles and Molly are in the kitchen. I was helping Major Metcalf to look for your skis. We've looked in the most entertaining of places, but to no avail. I don't know where Mr. Peravicini is.
I'll get him. You get the others. Mr. Peravicini! Mr. Parravicini. Mr. Parravicini.
Yes, Sergeant. What can I do for you, Little Balkanese girl has lost her skis and doesn't know where to find them. Leave them alone and they'll come home. Dragging a murder behind me.
What is all this?
Sit down, Major Metcalf. Mrs. Ralston.
Must I come now? It's very convenient.
There are more important things than meals, Mrs. Ralston. Mrs. Boyle, for instance, won't want another one.
That's a very tactless way of putting things, Sergeant.
I want cooperation, and I intend to get it. Mr. Ralston, go up and get Miss Casewell. She went to her room. Tell her we'll only be a few minutes.
Have your skis been found, Sergeant?
No, but I have a very shrewd suspicion of who took them and of why they were taken. I won't say any more at the present moment.
Please don't. I always think of explanations at the very end. That second last chapter.
This isn't a game, sir.
Isn't it? I think you're wrong. I think it is a game with somebody.
You say the murderer's enjoying himself. Maybe. Maybe.
What is happening? Sit down, Miss Casewell.
Mrs. Ralston. You may remember that after the death of Mrs. Boyle, I took statements from all of you. These statements related to your positions at the time Mrs. Boyle was killed. These statements were as follows. Mrs. Ralston in the kitchen. Mr. Ralston upstairs. Mr. Wren ditto. Mr. Parravicini in the drawing room. Miss Casewell in the library. And Major Metcalf in the cellar.
Correct.
These statements may be true. They may not. To put it quite clearly, 5 of them are true and 1 of them is not. 5 of you are telling the truth. 1 of you is lying. I have a plan to help me find out which one of you lied to me. And if I find out who lied to me, I think I may have found the murderer.
Not necessarily. Someone may have lied. For some other reason.
I rather doubt that.
But look here, Sergeant. You just said that you had no means of proving these statements.
Supposing we were all to go through these movements a second time.
Found the old chestnut. Reconstruction of the crime.
That's a foreign idea.
Not a reconstruction of the crime, Mr. Parravicini. A reconstruction of the movements of apparently innocent persons.
And what do you expect to learn from that?
You will forgive me if I don't make that quite clear at the moment.
You want a repeat performance?
Yes, Mr. Ralston, I do.
It's a trap.
What do you mean it's a trap?
It's a trap. I know it is.
I only want people to do exactly what they did before.
But I simply can't see what you could hope to accomplish by simply making people do the things they did before. I think it's just nonsense.
Do you, Mr. Wren?
Well, you can count me out. I'm far too busy in the kitchen.
I can't count anybody out. One might think you are all guilty by the looks on your faces. Why are you all so unwilling?
Of course, Sergeant. What you say goes. We will cooperate. Right, Molly?
Very well.
Mr. Parravicini?
Yes, I can say.
Miss Casewell?
Yes.
Wren? Major Metcalf?
Yes.
All right. Are we all to do the same things we did before?
The same actions we performed, yes.
Then I will return to the drawing room. One finger I'll pick out the signature tune of the murderer.
Not so fast, Mr. Parravicini. Mrs. Ralston, do you play the piano?
Yes, I do.
And you know the tune 3 Blind Mice?
Don't we all know it?
Then you could pick out with one finger, just as Mr. Parravicini did. Go into the drawing room, sit at the piano, and be ready to play when you hear me.
But, Sergeant, I understand we're to repeat our formal roles.
The same actions will be performed, but not necessarily by the same people. Thank you, Mrs. Ralston.
But I don't see the point.
There is a point. It's a means of checking up on the original statements, and maybe one statement in particular. Now, will you all pay attention, please, for your new assignments? Mr. Wren, you are to go to the kitchen. Keep an eye on Mrs. Ralston's dinner for her. I understand you're very fond of cooking. Mr. Perugini, go to Mr. Wren's room. By the back stairs is the most convenient way. Major Metcalf, go to Mr. Ralston's room. Check the extension telephone there. Miss Casewell, would you mind going down to the cellars? Mr. Wren will show you the way. I'm sorry to ask it of you, but I've got to ask someone to reproduce my own actions. Go out that window and trace the telephone wire to the front door. Rather a chilly job, but I suppose you're the toughest one here.
And what are you going to do?
I will be reenacting the part of Mrs. Boyle.
Taking a bit of a risk, aren't you?
You are all to stay in your positions until you hear me call for you.
No objection to my wearing a coat.
I should suggest it, sir. Take my flashlight, it's behind the curtain. Mrs. Ralston, count to 10 and begin to play. Mrs. Ralston? Mrs. Ralston?
Yes, what is it? You're looking very pleased with yourself. Have you got what you wanted?
Yes, I've got exactly what I wanted.
You know who the murderer is?
Yes, I know.
Which of them?
You ought to know, Mrs. Ralston.
I?
You've been extraordinarily foolish. You've run a very good chance of getting killed, you know. You've held out on me with information.
I don't know what you mean.
Come now, Mrs. Ralston. We police aren't quite so dumb as you think. I've known all along you've had first-hand knowledge of that business at the Longwood Farm. You knew Mrs. Boyle was the magistrate concerned. In fact, you knew all about it. Why didn't you speak up and say so?
I don't understand. I wanted to forget that.
Your maiden name was Waring.
Yes.
Miss Waring. You taught school. A school where those children went.
Yes.
Isn't it true that Jimmy, the child who died, managed to get a letter posted to you? The letter begged for help. Help from his kind, young teacher. You never answered that letter, did you?
I couldn't. I never got it.
You just didn't bother.
That's not true. I was ill. I went down with pneumonia that very day. The letter got put aside with others. It wasn't until weeks afterwards that I found it with a lot of other letters. By then, that poor child was dead. Dead. Waiting for me to do something, but hoping. Gradually losing hope. Oh, it's haunted me ever since. If only I hadn't been ill. If only I'd known. Oh, it's monstrous that such things should happen.
Yes, it's monstrous.
I do think the police carry revolvers.
The police don't. I'm not a policeman, Mrs. Ralston. You thought I was, because I called from the call box and said I was speaking from police headquarters, and that Sergeant Trotter was on the way. I cut the telephone wire on the way in, Mrs. Ralston. Do you know who I am? I'm Georgiana. I'm Jimmy's sister, Georgiana.
Oh,
I'd like to talk to you a little. I said I'd like to talk to you a little. Jimmy died. That nasty, cruel woman killed him. They put her in prison. Prison wasn't bad enough for her. I said I'd kill one day, and I did too, in the fog. It was great fun. I said I'd kill them all when I've grown up, because grown-ups can do whatever they like. I'm going to kill you in a minute.
you'd better not. You'll never get safely away.
Yes, somebody's hidden my skis. But it doesn't matter. I don't really mind if I get away or not. I'm tired. It's all been such fun, watching all your faces, and pretending to be the police.
That revolver will make a lot of noise.
Yes, it will rather, won't it? Better do it the usual way, and take you by the neck. Lasso the mouse in the trap.
Georgie! Georgie! You remember me, don't you? Remember the farm, Georgie? And the animals? And that fat old pig? And the day the bull chases across the field? And the dogs?
Dogs?
Yes. Spot and Plain.
Kathy?
Yes. Kathy. You remember me now, don't you?
Kathy? Is it you? What are you doing here?
I came to England to find you. I didn't recognize you until you twirled your hair the way you always used to do. Yes, you always did it. Georgie, come with me. You're coming with me.
Where are we going?
You're coming home. With me.
Oh, Kathy.
It's all right, Georgie. It's all right. I'm taking you somewhere where they will look after you. Instead, it won't do any more harm. Everything will be okay.
Ralston! Ralston!
Molly! Molly! Oh, darling.
Giles,
Who would have ever thought it was Trotter?
she's mad, quite mad.
Yes. But you?
Yes, I was mixed up in it all. I was the teacher in the school where those children went. It wasn't my fault. She thought I could save that child.
You should have told me.
I wanted to forget.
Everything's under control. She'll be asleep with a sedative soon. Her sister's looking after her. Medicine had her, of course. I had my suspicions all along.
You did? Didn't you believe she was a policeman?
I knew she was a policeman. You see, Mrs. Ralston, I'm a policeman.
You?
Yes. As it turns out, we got to pull that notebook with the name Mouse over in it. We saw it vital to have someone on the spot. When put to him, Major Metcalf agreed to let me take his place. Couldn't understand it when Trotter showed up.
And Casewell is her sister.
Yes, she recognized her just before the last business took place. Didn't know what to do. Luckily, she came to me. Well, it's starting to thaw. Help will be on our way here soon. By the way, I'll move those skis I can attach from the four-poster.
And I thought it was Parabuccini.
Yes, I gave a little examine that car rather carefully. Find about 1,000 or so gold watches in the spare tire. Yes, that's his line of business. Nice little bit of goods.
Molly, I believe you thought it was...
Giles, what were you doing in London yesterday?
I was buying you an anniversary present. We've only been married just a year.
Oh, that's why I went. But I didn't want you to know. It's a pocket watch. I do hope you like it.
Oh, darling. It's wonderful.
Will you wear it?
I'll wear it always.
It's my present.
Oh. It's a hat.
Hat, but I practically never wear one.
Just for special occasions.
Oh, darling, it's lovely.
Try it on.
Later, when my hair's done up properly.
I hope you like it. The lady at the store said it was the last thing in hats.
Mrs. Ralston, there's a terrible burning smell coming from the kitchen.
Oh, my pie!